All right, I just have to confess this. There are certain things that trigger me. And one of them is victimhood. Have you felt it? Like everybody's a victim of something. And everybody, it's not their fault. It was somebody else's fault. That irritates me. Here's why. It's not just the fact that there are real victims. And when everybody's a victim, they get overlooked. That bothers me. But what bothers me most is when we make victims out of people because we rob them of potential strength and success. Now, I want to show you what that looks like from the Bible. The very first king of Israel was Saul, a tall, handsome, good-looking guy, strong. Everybody respected him. He should have been a great king. In fact, I don't know if you realize this, there never should have been a David. That's what the prophet Samuel said to Saul when he confronted him. He said, God's going to take the kingdom away from you and give it to David. You should have had an everlasting kingdom, but you failed. Why did he fail? He failed because every time he sinned, he always pointed the finger at someone else. It's not my fault, it's their fault. Everything that went wrong, it's not my fault, it's their fault. In 1 Samuel chapter 15, God told Saul, I want you to destroy the Amalekites. I want you to destroy the men. I want you to destroy the women. I want you to destroy I want you to destroy even the animals. So not just killing the Amalekites, but also the Animalekites. Take them all out. And Saul mostly did what God said. But when Samuel the prophet comes, he hears the bleating of the enemy sheep. He hears the noise of their cattle. And Samuel's going, Saul, what's that I'm hearing? Is that a cow I hear? Is that a goat I hear? Why didn't you kill the animals? And Saul deflects and points to someone else. In verse 15, he says, they brought them from the Amalekites. I didn't bring them. My troops brought them from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord, listen, your God. And the rest we've devoted to destruction. Saul didn't take responsibility, and he didn't do what God told him to do. One chapter earlier, Saul was chasing the Philistines, and his son, Jonathan, actually set them to flight. And Jonathan is running after, and Saul has to get, so who is that over there? Well, that's your son, Jonathan. He's chasing the Philistines away. And so Saul said, all right, let's all go get him. And they all charged after them. And Saul made a foolish vow. He said, anybody who stops to eat anything, I'm going to kill him on the spot. Go get the Philistines. Go destroy our enemies. But you know who stopped to eat something? His own son, Jonathan. Saul didn't know that Jonathan didn't know what his father had promised. But at the end of the battle, Saul said, sorry, son, I'm going to have to kill you. And all the people said, Saul, don't you dare kill your son. He's the one that chased our enemies. And then the people said to Saul, this is verse 45, shall Jonathan die, who has worked this great salvation in Israel? Far from it. As the Lord lives, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has worked with God this day. And the people ransomed Jonathan, so he did not die. Now, I'm not advocating that Saul should have killed Jonathan. I'm saying he shouldn't have made a foolish vow. In chapter 15, God said, do this, and Saul didn't. In chapter 14, Saul said, I will do this, but he didn't. In chapter 13, God said, don't do this, but he did. The king was not supposed to make a sacrifice. That was the priest's job. But when the priest, that is Samuel, the prophet, took too long to get there, the people started leaving the battlefield. And Saul thought, I can't fight my enemies if my troops are walking away. So we got to make a sacrifice to get the Lord's approval. So Saul took it on himself to do the priest's job, and he made a sacrifice. And Samuel comes and confronts him and says, why did you do this? And Saul said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God, with which he commanded you. For then the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. There it is in black and white. Saul should have been the king forever, but he wasn't. Why? Because he made himself a victim. Every time something went wrong, he blamed someone else. And that is as old as Adam and Eve And that is something worth talking about.